This is Gigi Sabat, and you're listening to the Walk With Me podcast. My guest today is Adam Rosen. Welcome to the show, Adam.
Gigi, thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Likewise, it's such an honor to have you here today. Now, why don't you start off by telling us more about you and where are you from, Adam?
So I grew up in New York, and I went to college out in Boston, and I started my first company about 3 weeks before I graduated from college. I had that tech startup for about 5 years. I sold the company back in 2019. I went from Boston to Hawaii at that time because I was sick of the cold and kind of sick of the rat race and living in the big city or relatively big city. And I kind of bounced around a bit. And since November of 2021 now, I've been building my newest company where I just travel usually 2 to 3 months in a different location from all over the world.
I love it. Now, tell us a little bit more about your roller coaster startup journey.
Every single mistake you could possibly make as a founder and as a young entrepreneur, because I started the company at 22, 23 years old. I always share I was a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed young entrepreneur that always looked at starting a business as billionaire or bust, IPO or bust. So I made every mistake you could possibly make, from firing co-founders and losing co-founders to making mistakes with product, making mistakes with outreach. Any mistake you possibly can make, I probably made it. But because of all those mistakes I made, I'm benefiting from it now with my current company, and everybody that I work with from a startup perspective, hopefully is able to benefit from that as well.
Very powerful. Now, Adam, what message do you have for folks who also have had a mistake done within their business and they're actually thinking about giving up on their business?
Well, number one, we're all going to make mistakes. We're human. I don't care who you are. None of us are perfect. We're all going to make mistakes. My thing is, I don't ever want to make the same mistake twice, and I don't ever want a team member to make the same mistake twice. But we're all human. We're all going to make mistakes. In terms of giving up, as long as we understand where our vision is and where we want to go, as long as that's powerful enough, it'll keep us going. But one thing that I've kind of changed my tune on a little bit is around the thought of giving up. Because sometimes the best thing to do is to say, hey, I'm going to close this chapter and I'm going to move on to that next chapter. So even with my first tech startup, as a young entrepreneur, I thought, hey, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. And when it came down to my co-founder and I having that difficult conversation of, hey, let's find a suitor to buy this company so we can move on to what's next in our life. Some would say maybe that's quitting because we didn't want it. We didn't see it fully through. But for me, it was, hey, we took it as far as we could. Let's hand the keys to somebody else and let's see what's next for us on our journey. So as long as you know where you want to go and what your vision is, that'll help connect the breadcrumbs to what you should do, whether it's quitting, quote unquote, or just moving on to your next chapter.
Very powerful. Now, tell us a little bit more about your email outreach company.
Every company, it doesn't matter if you're a teeny tiny one-person startup or if you're a large, Fortune 50 type of company, everybody needs more top of the funnel. Everybody needs more sales opportunities. And a great way to do that can be done through cold email if you know how to do it effectively. For me, my tech startup days, again, going back to that, is we weren't a super well-funded startup. We didn't have a lot of connections in the space. So we kind of were forced to get scrappy to get more sales to grow our company. And we did it all through cold email outreach. And now that's what we're doing for our customers, where we get them on the meeting with we get them sales appointments with their potential buyers. And we're really just connecting one party to another.
Excellent. Now tell us a little bit more about a personal life challenge that you faced and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, the life challenge I want to focus on is a mixture of career and life. Because when we were selling the company, I always share with people this was not like a fancy, glamorous, successful acquisition that we all dream of when we start a company. And at that time when we were selling it, it was a time where my co-founder and I weren't paying ourselves for several months because we had to keep as much cash on hand as possible to sell it. So I wasn't paying myself any money. That's after taking, a really low salary to keep the business afloat as long as we did. I was moving out to Hawaii with really no money in my pocket at all. Nothing. So I was crashing on my dad's couch at the time, until I figured my stuff out. And for me, it was always knowing, take every lesson that I'm learning from this, Do not give up. Do not feel sorry for yourself, and do everything right. Don't cut any corners. Don't try to manipulate the process. And that was the big thing for me. And because that I was able to get through that and get through the other side of it. But it was a challenging time. I know moving out to Hawaii sounds great and glamorous, and it was amazing, but it was also the most difficult financial time I've ever been in, and also the most uncertainty, because I was closing a chapter on something that I thought, again, I would do forever. And it was a failure in my eyes, even though there was a lot of great success that came from it. So for me, it was, I just failed at my business. I have no money in my pocket right now. I'm crashing on my dad's couch. What the heck am I doing, and what's next?
Wow. Let's circle back real quick. You talk about failure, and we've all been there, right? And so what do you say to someone who also feels that way, who also feels like a failure?
Gratitude. And I was just having this conversation last night. I feel like one of the biggest challenges that at least I have, but I feel like probably most people can relate to it, is the feeling of being grateful for what we have, for being grateful for what we've learned, for being grateful for what we persevered through. Because I feel like one of the big mistakes that I make, and I feel like a lot of people again can probably relate to this, is we also don't give ourselves enough credit for the good things that we're doing. You know, if we're not making the financial success, or we don't have the fancy cars or the stuff that society tells us is successful, we'll be harder on ourselves than anybody else. And in today's world where, you know, Instagram, you're scrolling and everybody's so happy, quote unquote, everybody's got the nice cars, everyone's traveling to the coolest places. It's easy to compare us to others, and that could be demoralizing for ourselves. So I think being grateful for who we are, where we are, what we have, and what we've learned will help us get through those times when we feel like we're a failure, we feel like we're not as successful as we want to be.
That's right. Gratitude truly matters. Write that down, ladies and gentlemen. Gratitude. Very powerful statement, Adam. Now, what is your best advice to the audience for walking with purpose and living a life of happiness?
Keep going towards your North Star, and most importantly, keep finding out who you are, and what your North Star is. You know, we're on this earth for such a short amount of time, and we all want to make the most of it. And making the most of it is being happy and finding out what we're great at, finding out how we can add value to others, and finding out what energizes us. Because at the end of the day, if we're not energized, if we don't feel good, others around us won't be able to benefit from the goodness that we're able to share. So for me, so much of it is, hey, take that next step, focus on what energizes you, focus on what you can be great at, focus on giving. Because if you can give value, you will always get so much more in return without ever having to ask.
Amen. Very powerful. Now, Adam, where can the audience find you?
You could on social media, I'm typically at Adam I Rosen. So LinkedIn or Instagram is usually where I hang out. My website is eocworks.com, and my email is just adam@eocworks.com. But I'd love to connect with anyone here in the audience.
Excellent. And do you have any last words for the audience, Adam?
Yeah, my last words is going to be a shout out to you, Gigi, because I love your story. I love your message. I love what you're doing. And for everyone, just keep following Gigi and what she's doing with her podcast, because it's so inspiring to me. And I feel like your message of perseverance, for finding our happiness, for finding our best self, is something that we all need a daily reminder of. So my last message is just a shout out to you, and my appreciation for everything that you're doing.
Thank you, Adam. I appreciate your kind words, and it's been an honor to have you on the podcast. Also, everyone, make sure to check out Adam on his website. That's EOC, E as in Edward, O as in Oscar, C as in Charlie, works.com. Again, that's EOCworks.com. And Adam, thank you for being a guest on the Welcome Me podcast. You have a blessed day.
Thank you for having me.